We got free contribution given out in the recent Worker Empire changes, and it's time to show off my updated Worker Empire for those curious on how I have mine set up. Welcome back to the channel that still loves to life skill only. My name's Teddy, and whenever I mention how many workers and the amount of workshops I use, I often get asked how I have so many, so today I'll be showing off my Worker Empire and all the nodes I have invested in. Fair warning before we get started, my Worker Empire is completely pay to win. This isn't going to be a guide to show you what nodes you have to get, but to give you a few ideas on your own empire, and just to show off how I have mine. So if you enjoy this and you find it helpful, be sure to leave a like, and without wasting any more time, let's just jump into my updated Worker Empire I've made in Black Desert Online. Having a thriving Worker Empire in Black Desert can make a huge difference when it comes to life skilling, or just even investing into nodes to dump energy into grinding zones can help out with mob grinding. First, you'll need a ton of contribution points. It's going to be rough just starting out with the lower points, but once you get around 400 or more contribution, a ton of options open up. You'll sadly have to choose between investing into a ton of worker lodging to send workers to, or the storage just for the materials, but once done, it can help out. Next is the workshops to make the crates to passively earn money while doing other activities, making items for other crafting projects, or trying to level the trading just to help out with earning money while fishing. Either way, this requires a lot of points to invest, with the Pearl Shop offering up to 5 worker lodging for each city, storage expansions, wharf slots, even stables. The Pearl expansions can get pretty expensive really quick, but opens up a lot more options when it comes to the nodes you'll be able to invest into without having to waste extra points in a town. I only recommend this method for those who are really into the Worker Empire like me, but just remember it will cost a lot. Events sometimes offer more storage slots for cities, and in the loyalty store you'll be able to get more storage and worker lodging, but there is a limit on how many worker lodgings you can buy. Once you get them all, you will still need to invest into a town lodging if you're still needing more workers, so keep that in mind. Lastly, I suggest completing the Magnus questline to unlock the ability to move items between storages without needing to rely on the transport wagons or having to run to the storage. Now to jump into the nodes, we have the Valencia region. For the nodes, I chose the Arhaza Palm Forest for both subnodes for the palm needed to keep up with the palm crate demands. Moving up, I took the Northern Sand Dune to connect the Cavania Volcano Zone for the Vanadium Ore and Titanium Ore. Back at Valencia, I took the Valencia Plantation node for the Freeca and the Date Palms, Earl Farm for the Silk Thread, and finally, I took Volam Farm for the Teff. I have the Rakshan Observatory for the connection to Encanto. Then I took Encanto Coast to connect the rest of the desert. I have Durko Island, Ushima Island, then Helmet Island to connect the Edania region, and took Hope Pier to connect to Shakatu. Moving down to the actual desert, I have Pilgrim Sanctuary Obedience for the Golden Trace of Nature, Pilgrim Sanctuary Abstinence, Sharing, and Sincerity, all for more gold and Trace of Nature. And finally, I took Pilgrim Sanctum Humility for the Rough Opal. Next we have Shakatu. Here I took Shakatu Farmlands to gather figs. Continuing the connection nodes, I took Run Gateway Intersection and Kadri Ruins for the Kanad Vacation Spot so I can get the Muddy Water subnode. From here I took Veterans Canyon, Rock Post, and finally Altanova Gateway so Valencia can be connected to the rest of the other regions. Over at San Bazaar, I invested into the Bazaar farmland for more Teff and Caputia for Opal with some copper. As for renting workshops and lodgings in the Valencia region, I only chose Valencia City. Here, I took Valencia 1-1 Floor 1 and 2, Valencia 1-3 Floor 1, all for worker lodging. Working my way up, I have Valencia 3-1 for lodging, and Valencia 3-2 Floor 1 for the mineral workshop to craft green crystal amulets. Next, I have Valencia 8-1 for lodging and Valencia 8-2 Floor 1's Mineral Workshop for Mud Crystal Amulets. Valencia 9-1 has more lodging, while Valencia 9-2 has a wood workshop for palm timber crates. Valencia 12-1 Floor 1 is more lodging, then 12-2 Floor 1 is a mineral workshop to craft red crystal amulets. Valencia 13-1 Floor 1 is the usual lodging, and 13-2 Floor 1 is another wood workshop for more palm timber crates. I took Valencia 15-1 Floor 1 for even more lodging, then Valencia 15-2 Floor 1's mineral workshop to craft black crystal amulets. Finally, I took Valencia 17-1 for the lodging, then 17-2's wood workshop to make Mediah timber crates. Moving into the Edania region, this one's one of the cheaper areas to invest in if you're looking for more crystals for crates. Starting at the bottom, I took Eskar Mountain and Shore of Ruins to get Edania connected to the Valencia region. From Hackensaw Sanctuary, I took the Sanctuary Coastal Outpost for the fishing subnode. Heading up the line, I took Natick Outpost and Erna's Mountain for the excavation subnode, so I can get Trace of Nature and rough green crystals. Then I took Owl's Revelation. East of Hackensaw, I invested into the Great White Spot so I can get to Faith's Resting Place node, just for the Elder Tree Timber subnode and to connect the other nodes to Hackensaw. I have Epitar Mountains connected for the Rough Translucent Crystal subnode at the Azure Battlefield, then the Crossroads of Defiance node. From the Crossroads, I took the Veiled Archives just for the Rough Red Crystal subnode and to connect the Wailing Altar node. Plateau Mountains node has Rough Mud Crystal and Elder Tree subnodes I wanted. Next, I invested into the Whispering Hills and Nivcastle nodes to get the Great Dark Spot node for the Trace of Nature subnode. Back at the Crossroads, I took the Garden of Immortality and Zep's Castle node to finally connect the Ancient Ruins node so I can get both Kaffir Tree subnodes. Unfortunately, there's only 2 places to rent lodging and workshops here in the region. At the Shore of Ruins, I took both spots for the lodging, and over at Owl's Revelation, I took the spots starting with the wood workshop for Edania timber crates, a lodging, the fish workshop for more fish crates, and lastly, the final spot is lodging. In the Mediah region, since Altanova is already connected to Valencia, I'll start here with taking the Altanova Gateway node so I can connect the Abandoned Iron Mine node for the zinc and ore subnodes. I have the Highland Junction and Azula Highland nodes to connect the Omar Lava Cave for the zinc and coal subnodes, Castle Farm for the cinnamon, and just to connect Tariff. I chose the Stonetail Horse Ranch to connect Alto Farm to Kamasylvia Temple just so I can get the Ancient Ruins excavation site for the Rough Opal subnode and the Ancient Fissures Zinc subnode. Kamasylvia Temple connects to the eastern border, then to Heidel to connect the region to Serendia. As for the towns, I invested into the Stonetail Horse Ranch, taking the storage for the first 2 slots, and the Horse Gear Workshop on the last slot to make more gear if need be. The only other towns I invested into is Tariff with a Lone Fish Workshop at Tariff 2-1, Room 1 to make paper tail anchovy fish crates, and Alto Farm for a single worker lodging. Down south of the Mediah region, we have the Ulukita region, which is a cheap zone if you have the contribution points to spare. So from Sparkin, I took the Neruda Plain for the Acacia Timber subnode. Down at Musgar, I took the Darkseeker's Retreat and the Iron subnode. Next, I took the Karasi Canyon and Barhan Camp nodes to connect Tungrad Ruins for both the Trace of Nature subnodes, the Shikar Wilds so I can get the Stoughbeer Acacia subnode, and Yazarid Highlands White Cedar Timber node. Pretty simple for my empire, and because I chose to lean into the Pearl Lodgings, I have no towns invested into here. It's on to the regions I heavily invested into, starting out with Serendia. From Heidel, I have the Northern Guard Camp node to connect Serendia to the Balenos Region, and the Alejandro Farm just so I can get honey and the pumpkin subnodes. Next to Alejandro, I took the Lynch Farm Ruins for the excavation subnode. I also took the Northern Plains of Serendia and Brady Forest nodes to connect Serendia to the Calpheon region, and the Northwestern Gateway node to connect to Glish. From Glish, I took the Glish Swamp node for the Cloud Mushrooms and Lead Sub Ore nodes, then the Southern Camp node for the Iron and more Cloud Mushrooms. I also have the Southern Guard Camp node just to get the Glish Ruins Rough Mud Crystal subnode, and the Serendia Shrines Pine Timber subnode. As for the towns, over here at Heidel, I chose the Heidel 7-1 line for storage, 7-2 floor 1 for a wood workshop, make Serendia wood crates, and Heidel 7-3 for worker lodging. At Alejandro's farm, I have Serendia 1-1 floor 1's mushroom workshop for cloud mushroom crates. Then the last town I invested into is Glish with all the slots. Here I have the wood workshop, the metal workshop for brass and lead crates, worker lodging. Glish 2 has the stable slot, since Glish offers the highest free horse slots without needing the pearl stables right behind Duvenkroon. A tool workshop for more utensils as needed, then the final slot is just storage. Here in the Balenos region, from the Heidel Pass, I took the Forest of Plunder node, which leads into the Goblin Cave for the translucent crystals, and Awas Hill here so I can get the Ash Tree subnode. I took the Bartali Farm for easy chicken meat, eggs, and the potato. Tuscany Farm has a corn subnode I took. Over in the Forest of Seclusion, I have the Maple Timber, and in the Ancient Stone Chamber, I have the Excavation subnode. Up over at Olvia, I took the Casta Farm node for the Grape subnode, Whale Farm for olives, and with all the new changes, I took the Temerian Cliff just so I have a chance at the translucent crystals. Like all the other regions, we have to talk about the towns. In Velia, I invested Velia 2-1 for the wood workshop to make Balenos crates. Velia 1, room 1 and 2 are my lodging. Velia 1, room 3 has a fish workshop to make octopus crates. Velia 2-1 is my metal workshop for brass crates. Tuscany Farm has a lodging at Balenos 6-1. And in Olivia, I took only a house to do all my cooking and alchemy. Calpheon is a region that has a ton of nodes to take. Oz Pass is the first node I chose to connect both Delphi Knight Castle and Oz's house. Dias Farm is next so I can take the Northern Wheat Plantation for the Barley subnode. We have Old Dandelion here for the Birch Timber node and Carudo Cave node for the Red Crystal subnode. I chose Baronado Farm for the Platinum ore, then Bree Tree Ruins for more Birch Timber. I took Abandoned Land to connect to Calpheon City, the Isolated Sentry Post, Etheria Valley, and Etheria Sentry Post to connect Port Etheria. From the Isolated Sentry Post, I took Quaint Hill for more lead ore. Over at Port Etheria, I invested into Circa Island for the fishing subnode. Randus Island is good for the 2 fishing subnodes. Then I took Beza Island for the last fishing node I wanted. At Calpheon City, we can start working down south of the region. Starting out, I have the Gabino Farm, North Kaya Pier, Calpheon Castle Site, Catfishman Camp, all just to get the Mancha Forest node for both the Fur Timber and Excavation subnodes. After that, I took the Tobear's Cabin node to get the Rodham Outstation node just so I can have the Green Crystal subnode. Continuing down, I have the Abandoned Monastery node to get to the Tree Ants Forest Fur Timber node. Still moving south, I have the Lumberjacks Rest area so I can connect Trent to Calpheon and the rest of the Empire. At Keplen, I took the Keplen Quarry for more coal and the North Abandoned Quarry for copper ore. I took the Tarde Rock Fort, then the Abandoned Quarry node for the Zinc subnode. After that, I have the Gagu Plain, followed by the Primal Giants Post for the last lead ore node we can put workers on. Hexstone Wall is good for the Iron subnode. Then I have Mary Cave node so I can get both the Pine Timber and more Ghost Mushrooms. Still going, I have the Witch's Chapel, X Sanctuary to connect the Dreighan Region to Calpheon, and the Rural Tree sub to get the Excavation subnode. Bear Downstream is needed to get to the Bear Riverhead node just for the Tin Ore subnode. Since Bear is automatically connected, I took the Longleaf Tree Forest node to get the Cedar Timber subnode. I have nothing invested into Calpheon, but I chose to invest more into the Northern Wheat Plantation for the Northern Wheat Plantation 1 crop workshop, just to make potato crates. After that is Port Etheria. I have Port Etheria 3-1, floor 1, 2, and 3 for fish workshops making Signad, Moa Moa, and John Dory fish crates. Etheria 1-1, floor 1 is worker lodging. Etheria 1-2, floor 1, 1-2, and 1-3 are all storage. Over in Keplen, I took Keplen 1-2 floor 1 for a mineral workshop. Keplen 1-3 has a lodging. Keplen 1-4 floor 1 for another mineral workshop. But Keplen 3-1 has a worker lodging and Keplen 3-2 has the last mineral workshop for all the steel crates I need. Down in Trent, I almost have the whole town starting with Trent 1 being a storage, Trent 2 being a wood workshop to make Calpheon crates, Trent 5 is another storage, Trent 3 is a mineral workshop, so I can make Snowfield Jade crates, and Trent 4 is a funnel storage. There's the last place I invested into, having a worker lodging at Bear 1 and 2. Let's move on to the Dreighan Region. At the very top, I have the Fountain of Origin to get more Trace of Nature from the subnode. Jerican Necropolis is the next node I took for more Trace of Nature. From there, I have the Kelp Canyon for both subnodes getting Knock and Zinc ore. To connect Duvenkroon to the rest of the map, I chose Herrick Shelter, then the Morning Fog Post. Because this is a smaller zone, over in Duvenkroon, I only invested into Duvenkroon 1 for the Horse Ranch being the training capital. Now it's time for the Kamasylvia region. Unlike most players, I didn't choose too much from the Kama region, but I do have Lake Flondor node for the Knock ore, and Southern Kamasylvia for another Knock ore subnode. The Ulukita region is so unloved with needing a decent amount of contribution points for barely anything. The only node I chose here was the Shiv Valley Road node to get Thornwood Timber. As for the Mountain of Eternal Winter region, I used to enjoy this before the Land of the Morning Light in terms of life skills. Starting at Elton, I took the Mazlan Citron Orchard for the Citron subnode, and Aretha's Belt to connect Windmill's Perch for the Snowfield Timber subnode. As for Elton itself, I only took Elton 1 and 2 for storage. In order to connect the land of the morning light, we have to go through the ocean, and because I often see people ask how to connect the land of the morning light to the rest of the world, I'll go down all the nodes I took just for that. I took Luveno Island to Paratama Island, Weta Island, Reme Island, Orfs Island to connect to Lima, which also connects to the Aquala's Eye. From there, we can start connecting all the way to the morning light nodes. Land of the Morning Light used to be one of my favorites until I got bored of the lack of the mainland materials needed for all the crafting, but with all of that out of the way, let's go down the nodes. I have the Bijuki Island and Hema Island for the Trace of Nature subnodes. Nampo is connected to Shiminde Forest to get the Solgiai Forest or Bracken. Next, I have the Dokubi Forest for both subnodes getting Trace of Nature and the Translucent Crystals. If you're trying to passively get the Forest Crystal and the Crystal Harmony, these are nice to have. The Wan Plateau is good for connecting the Golden Pig Cave, which I took the subnode for the Trace of Nature and a small chance at getting the Crystal of Darkness and Bitterness. At Dalbo Village, I invested into the Yewu Pass just to get Viola. After that, I have the Bari Forest connecting to Napse for Tiger Flower, and the Bombaway Valley for more Tiger Flower and the Crystal of Decimation. Finally, I took the Bombaway Gate node to connect the Morning Light to the Seoul Region. As for the town investments, down at Nampo, I took Nampo 1 for the Croc Workshop to make Tiger Flower crates, and Nampo 2 for the worker lodging. I invested into the Dokubi Forest to get more lodging at the top right Dokubi jar. In Dalbo Village, I only have a Crop Workshop making Tiger Flower crates in Dalbo 3. As for Napse, this is a little different having subnodes to place workers on, so I took the rice, Napa cabbage, and radish subnodes. Napse 1 and 2 are lodging, with Napse 3 being used for a tool workshop just to keep my Land of Morning Light utensils stocked up. Seoul is the last region to go down with maybe the most invested into my empire, so at the top of Bukbo, I connected Matgol Village for the Iron subnode. Next to Matgol, I took Baoli Forest for both maple timber subnodes. Mount Ashi has a nice excavation for Trace of Nature. Connecting Mount Ashi to Myeong Hall, I chose the excavation subnode for the Trace of Nature, which also connects to the Royal Workshop or Seoul, which I did take for a huge 5 contribution points. From there, I took the Secret Society node for the Copper or Rough Opal subnode. Heading down towards Godu Village, I have Unjaga Street node and the Doom Ridges node for the Pine subnode, which will connect to Godu. Back at Yukjo Street, I took the Dangmakal Village so I can invest into the Derang Cave, which has 2 zinc subnodes. After those, I have the Youngru and Wangjin Palace nodes for Dang Forest zinc subnode. This also connects to Gojui Cave, having copper and a Viola subnode. The last thing we need to go down is the town investments, which is pretty simple. I took nothing from Bukpo, so moving down to Yukjo Street, Yukjo 1 has a storage, Yukjo 2 and 3 are all lodging. Lastly, Godu Village is like Nopsei Biot County with having subnodes inside the town too. I took everything here, both rice, Napa cabbage, and the radish subnodes. All the town slots are all crop workshops just to make Viola crates for trading experience. And there you have it, all the nodes I invested into and the towns. Before anyone asks, yes, I bought most of all the Pearl Lodging and a ton of storage slots to be able to refund contribution points just to invest elsewhere. My worker empire is completely pay to win, but it should give you some ideas on where you can invest and why for those still figuring out their own worker empire. Yes, you can make more money when making all your crates in Valencia and shipping them out to the Seoul region, but with my empire, I chose to have workshops all around the map using 167 workers at the moment. No, I still wouldn't recommend anyone spending real money to get all the nodes I have. This is just what I chose to do and I enjoy it. Let me know what you think about my worker empire. Did you invest heavily into yours, or are you looking into starting one but have no clue where to begin? Leave a like if you found this helpful or just enjoyed this, share it around, and I'll see you guys in the next guide. Keep gathering out there, everyone.